Hi there everyone, and welcome to another edition of Starry Skies, the magazine programme that tells you all about what you can see in the night sky this month. I'm Mark Hardacre.
And I'm Steve Tonkin.
And today we're going to be looking at the stars and planets and all the other celestial objects you can see during this festive month of December.
Yes, and let's hope we don't have any more of that terrible weather we had towards the end of November.
It's the worst month I can remember. How much sun have we had? It's minutes, isn't it?
Oh, I think we had a little bit, but it really wasn't very good at all. I think it was possibly worse than last February, which was pretty ghastly, if you remember.
Really, really bad. And there is lots of talk in social media about how bad the weather is becoming in the UK, and is this country going to be good for astronomy for the next few decades? Well, who knows? Fingers crossed, eh, Steve?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things we do know, as we get more energy into the atmosphere, which is what's happening, you're going to get more evaporation from seas and lakes and that, so you're going to have more cloud.
Yeah. Anyway, we will press on. Never mind.
We will. When there's a good, nice, crisp northerly wind, it usually blows it all away, and you get some lovely clear nights at this time of year.
So. Anyway, don't look out really on the 15th. The 15th of December is full moon, and of course the full moon, as we've said before on this programme, isn't the astronomer's best friend. It's
nature's light pollution.
That's it, nature's light pollution. So the early part of the month, where we are now this first week, or just at the end, just between Christmas and New Year. Christmas? Oh, my goodness. Between Christmas and New Year, that's the best time to have a look at the stars and the planets this month.
Yeah.
And it's a particularly good month for the planets, isn't it?
You can see a lot of them this month.
What we got Venus, we got Saturn, and Jupiter and Mars are all visible to the naked eye.
Yeah, the only naked eye pleasant planet we can't see, of course, is Mercury.
Yeah,
far too close to the sun.
Very tricky to see. When it's a good time to see Mercury, we'll talk about it on this programme, because most people in East Dorset, I guess, have never seen it, and it's a tricky planet to see. But let's have a go. Maybe in springtime, huh?
Well, the famous astronomer Copernicus never saw it, apparently.
Yep. That's because even with his light pollution and his haze in Poland, he never got the chance. So, what do we got this month? We got the constellation of the month is Orion.
Oh, it couldn't be anything else, could it, really?
No, I mean, really, of all the planets, all the constellations in the sky, Orion and the Plough are the best two to look at. So, where shall we start this month? Let's start in the west, shall we?
I think it's always good to start in the west, because things there are going to set, so if you don't get them early on, you're going to miss them, as we know from our experience elsewhere.
Indeed. So, the sun is, of course, low in the constellation of Scorpius during December, which means it's at its lowest point in the sky.
Yeah.
And that is the winter solstice, which occurs on the 21st of December at 9:19 a.m. in the morning. So what does that mean? What does solstice mean?
It actually means the sun sticks.
Ah.
If you look at the rising and setting points of the sun, as you get close to the solstices, they hardly move from day to day. Whereas at the equinoxes, they move an enormous amount from day to day. So the sun's sort of slowing down. It appears to come to a stop at its rising and setting points. And then gradually, as we get away from the solstice, it'll start going north again for those rising and setting points. So, yeah.
So the sun is at its furthest it can get during this time. So that means that the short days and the short nights are going to be with us for quite a while then.
Short days, long nights.
Short days, long nights, that's it.
Yeah.
So official first day of winter is the 21st of December then, right?
Yes, although you wouldn't have believed that a few weeks ago when it got down to well below zero, but yes.
Absolutely. Anyway, so let's have a look. 5:30, the sky's dark, and it remains dark until about 6:30 a.m. So you get 13 hours of starlit nights, or cloudy nights, whichever.
Yeah, that's lovely, isn't it? One of the nice things, even if you don't want to stay up all night, which is not always a nice thing to do at this time of year, at least you can start getting your observing in early. You don't have to wait till late in order to get out and have a look at things.
Yep.
You have a look before supper, if you like.
That's right. So let's start our trip. As we said, let's start in the west. So the sun's gone down. It's now, say, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. Take a look to the west, and you will not be able to miss the most brilliant, shiny star, as it looks to be, in the west, and that's the planet Venus.
It is absolutely beautiful. It's also the thing that triggers the most UFO reports when it's in the evening sky. It's so bright, people don't think it could be a planet, but it is.
Yeah.
They think it's a light, and when you drive along because of parallax, it appears to follow you.
Yes.
And then when you stop, it stops.
Most
And
mysterious.
if you pull over to the side of the road, it turns your engine off. Apparently.
But it really is so bright. I mean, especially this time, it's low, bright and low.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of years ago, it was very bright and high in the sky, and doesn't really trigger as many UFO reports. But when it's low, like it is now, that's when the phone calls come in, Steve.
Indeed,
right?
because, you just see it without having to look up, so that's great.
Yeah. What else do people mistake it for in December, though?
I don't know. You tell me.
Of course, the Star of Bethlehem.
Ah, yes, that's a possibility.
So the Star of Bethlehem features, of course, in the Bible, and that's the only place it features. And astronomers really don't know what it was, if it was there at all, if there was something at all. One of the possibilities would be the planet Jupiter or Venus, either, or maybe a conjunction of the two of them together in the sky at the same time.
Yeah.
What else could it have been?
Well, some people have suggested it could be a supernova, but of course supernovas leave remnants and we can't find any, so that's unlikely. My favourite one is that it's actually a comet.
Right.
And, won't go into too much detail about it, but there was definitely an occasion where a comet was followed by Magi. And that was actually Halley's Comet. It was a little bit later than the birth is meant to have occurred, but it was before the Gospel was written.
Right. So there you go. And Halley's Comet, for those who don't know, is also called Halley's Comet or Halley's Comet. So the pronunciation of Mr.
Well, he sometimes spelt his name Hawley, so I reckon Hawley.
There are all sorts of different pronunciations. Anyway, so we don't think it's the Star of Bethlehem. No. It is definitely the planet Venus, down low in the west. But if we now turn our gaze, so just turn through 180 degrees, look the other direction, about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening, and there you'll see another brilliant star in the sky.
Yeah, that's the king of planets we mentioned before. That's Jupiter.
Yeah.
And it's the second brightest of the planets.
Yeah. So if you actually, in this cold, early December evening, look west and then east, you will see the third brightest and the fourth brightest objects in the sky. The first brightest, of course, is the sun. Mm-hmm. The second is the moon. The third is Venus, we've just talked about, in the west. And the fourth is Jupiter in the east. So you've got all four up in the sky there for you. Yeah, so what else have we got in our December night skies? We've got two of the most recognisable constellations in the night sky. So in the north, let's turn round to the north, and we'll see there the 7 stars that make up the Plough.
Or the Big Dipper, or the Saucepan, or the Wagon, or the whatever.
Yep. And you'll see it's fairly low in the north. It's wheeling its way slowly up towards the zenith. It will be overhead in the summer, but during this winter period, it's low, touching the trees, and then wheels its way slowly up into the eastern sky. But it never sets in the sky of Great Britain, meaning you can always find it somewhere.
Indeed. At the moment, it looks like it's standing on its handle.
Yeah.
Very well balanced.
Yeah. So. And it will sweep up, as spring approaches, it will sweep up high into the eastern sky and then overhead. And as we've said so many times on this program before, you can use the Plough as a signpost to find your way around the stars. Everybody knows how to find Polaris by using the end 2 stars of the Plough to point up to the North Pole, up to the star that is Polaris. And you can always find north in the Northern Hemisphere that way. So let's move the clock forward a bit. So now, not the evening sky, we're around about 10 o'clock in the evening. And then head the opposite direction again, turn around from the north and face south.
Well, there is one of my favourite constellations, and you cannot miss it. It is Orion the Hunter.
absolutely. Lovely. Constellation of the month. It's so bright. It's made up really of 7 stars. All of them except one are bright white stars. Many of them giants or supergiants, burning their fuel at a prodigious rate. Apart from one of them.
So which one's that, Mark?
That is the star Betelgeuse. So if you're looking south, looking at Orion, in the top left-hand corner of Orion, that's the bright star Betelgeuse, which is a red supergiant.
That's big.
It is.
That is so big. If it was where our sun is, we'd be well inside it. Mars would be well inside it. It would reach almost out to the orbit of Jupiter. It is huge.
And also very bright. This star is 650 light years away from us.
Whoa.
Yeah, and that means that the light that we see today, when we look at Betelgeuse, that light is 650 years old.
So why is it red, though, Mark?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, isn't it? It's an unmistakable red colour. With your binoculars and with the naked eye, you can't miss it's red. And that's because it's red hot.
Aha.
So that its temperature, if we could stick a thermometer into Betelgeuse, it would melt, of course, but before it did, it would register that Betelgeuse is about 3,600 degrees centigrade, which is... It's hot, it's red hot, but compared to our sun, which is a whitey yellowy colour, the sun is 5,600 C. So it's a red hot star. And when we look at the stars in the night sky, they are all different colours. We have very deep red, orange, yellow, white, all the way through to white, including some that are even blue-white. They're so incredibly hot.
Well, that's like the one at the other corner of Orion.
It is indeed. We'll come to that in a second. Let's think about what's going to happen to Betelgeuse in the next... Well, how many thousands of years, we're not sure.
We don't know.
Because Betelgeuse is such a massive star, as you were saying, Steve, out to the orbit of Jupiter, one day it will run out of fuel and the star will collapse on itself. It will suck itself into a tight ball in the middle and there'll be an enormous explosion and Betelgeuse will turn into a supernova. And perhaps it will be visible from the Earth as a brilliant object in the night sky, like the full moon, maybe.
Or even in the daytime sky.
Yep. Now, no need to worry. We don't think it's going to happen soon, do we? Although there's a bit of a scare a few years ago.
Yes, it faded dramatically, and people did wonder if it was getting ready for it, but no, it wasn't.
No. But this is the fate of most red supergiant stars like Betelgeuse. They will eventually run out of fuel in the middle, and as they run out of fuel, there's nothing to stop gravity collapsing all the atmosphere of the star. It will disappear down into a very, very tiny little core, which will become a neutron star or even a black hole, we don't know, with a tremendous explosion, a tremendous bang, and all the atmosphere will be thrown out into space. We'll be left with a tiny little neutron star and a huge blast of energy that goes into the night sky.
Oh, I'd love to be able to see it, but we may have to wait even 100,000 years before it happens. We just don't know.
We are due a supernova, though. We've only had 2 in the last 500 or 600 years in our galaxy, one in Cassiopeia and one Kepler star. So we are due another one, really, aren't we?
Yeah, theoretically, we should have about one a century.
Yeah,
theoretically. So maybe we'll have 4 in a row. That would be good.
Anyway, as you were saying, the opposite end of Orion.
Yeah.
So Betelgeuse is top left.
We go down to bottom right.
And what do we find there?
That's Rigel, and that is a really, really hot star.
Yeah, so it's the opposite, really, to Betelgeuse.
It's exactly the opposite. And the reason it's blue, if you can imagine, you heat something up, it's first of all it goes red hot, then it goes yellow hot, and eventually white hot. And if you could heat it up even more, it would eventually go blue hot.
Yep.
And that is why Rigel is so hot. That's how we know.
And we reckon it's close to 10,000 degrees centigrade. That is very, very hot.
Yeah.
And hot and very brilliant as well. Rigel is even further away than Betelgeuse. it's 860 light years away. Betelgeuse, what did I say, was 600
650,
and some, and Rigel even further away, yet still as brilliant, or more so, in the night sky. Tremendous power and energy, and Rigel is so hot because it's gobbling its fuel, it's gobbling its hydrogen fuel at a prodigious rate, and because it's so greedy, it's actually going to run out of fuel sooner than our sun. Greedy little star, or greedy huge stars like Rigel actually consume their fuel so quickly that their lifetime is very short. Our sun plods its way through life, which is nice for us, and will still be around for another 4 to 5 billion years, while Rigel will not. Yeah, so those are the two brilliant stars that you can see. And both of these stars, Steve, in fact, all the stars in Orion, were born inside a nebula, weren't they?
They were indeed. And Orion has its own nebula as well,
right,
where this is going on now. So if you see the middle three stars, which appear to be in a straight line, they're not actually. The middle one is 3 times as far away as the other, so it's just a line of sight effect. Below that, you'll see the sword hanging.
Right.
And the middle star of the sword looks a bit fuzzy. If you look at it with binoculars, you'll see it's not a star at all. It's this little fuzzy blob, and this is the Great Orion Nebula. And what's happening there is what's called the interstellar gas and dust. So this is gas and dust, a lot of which has been produced by other stars when they've come to the end of their life, as Betelgeuse will do sometime. This is now collapsing under gravity, and new stars are being formed. So it's a stellar nursery. Right. It's a wonderful place. And if you want to see this going on, look up the Hubble Space Telescope images of it, and they will show little bits they call proplyds, protoplanetary disks, where you could just see the stars lighting up and a little disk of dust around it, and that dust may well condense to become planets. So that's what we're looking at there. It's wonderful.
Yeah. And you can see the Orion Nebula with the naked eye, Steve?
You can. It just looks like a fuzzy star.
Right. So we get our binoculars out, then what do we see then?
Oh, then you start seeing it actually has a bit of shape. It bulges a little bit to the bottom. It seems to have a little indentation on the top. But to really get the best out of it, you have to image it, because that will bring out the colours. There's not enough light coming from there for us to see the colours there. But it's a lot of red, and that red tells us it's hydrogen.
Right. And
hydrogen is the most common element in the universe, as far as we know.
And if I get a small telescope, if I have a small telescope and point it at the Orion Nebula, will I be able to see some more detail than with binoculars?
Oh, yes, because the whole thing is being lit up by a few little stars quite near the little indent I mentioned, and they're called the trapezium, because they are in the orientation of a trapezium, 4 corners of a trapezium. And you don't have to magnify a lot. You can magnify 20 times, and you should easily be able to see the trapezium stars.
Right.
And just to think, they are lighting up this whole ball of gas, and that ball of gas is 3 times the diameter of the distance from here to our nearest star. It is huge.
And it's if we were there in it, if we could miraculously transport ourselves to the middle of the Orion Nebula, we wouldn't be in the middle of a foggy night.
Oh, heavens,
it's extremely thin, isn't it?
Oh, it's more like a vacuum than the best vacuums we can get in the best laboratories on Earth.
Absolutely.
It's just because it's so huge, it's 12 light years thick, there's enough stuff there that we can actually see it from a distance. But any of these nebulae, don't believe what you see on Star Trek. They don't glow colourful when you get close. They are better than vacuums.
Yes, indeed. And there, probably a star is being created every 2 or 3 years. Something they're not being created every 5 or 10 minutes. It takes still a tremendous amount of time for stars to form,
or even hundreds of years sometimes. Yeah. But we mentioned,
have a look for it anyway. It's a lovely object to find in the sky.
But don't then go back to the 3 stars of Orion's belt and just look at that area with binoculars, because it's beautiful, and it's a huge cluster of stars, much more easy to see in binoculars, and I call it the cluster that most amateur astronomers have never seen. They've seen it, they haven't known what they're looking at.
Dear listeners, I have to tell you that this is one of Steve's favourite clusters in the sky. And he always complains that nobody actually recognises it as a cluster, which is true. So whenever we talk about the Orion Nebula, he says, of course, do go back to the Orion's belt, because there is a wonderful cluster. It does have a name, doesn't it?
Colander 70.
Colander 70. Nothing to do with your cauliflower and broccoli.
No, nothing like that at all. Or your kitchen strainer or anything like that. No, it's but just... And I've mentioned it a little bit earlier, those 3 stars of Orion's belt, the middle one of which is 3 times as far away as the other 2. If we're going back to the idea of the Star of Bethlehem, in some traditions, those 3 stars are sometimes called the 3 wise men.
Yeah.
Because they're up in the sky around Christmas time. And if you look at how they move through the sky, they are following a star, and that star is Aldebaran.
Yes.
Which is a handspan up to the upright. Follow the line of up there.
We will, of course, be posting a map of Orion on the websites, on the Fordingbridge Astronomers website, on the Wessex Astronomical Society website, as well as, of course, the Forest FM fan page.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to see the shape of Orion, the bright stars we've talked about, Betelgeuse and Rigel, the belt and the sword, M42 as it's called, and you'll be able to see the surrounding stars of the area too. And it's a very nice area to sweep with your binoculars.
Yeah.
There's lots going on. As Steve says, don't forget his favourite colander open cluster around the belt. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about the planets this month, shall we? We've talked a bit about Venus in the west. You can only see it until about 6 or 6:30.
Yeah.
So as soon as it's dark, nip out, have a look west during December, and you'll see it there.
Well, just a little bit above Venus is the ring planet Saturn. So this is really coming to its last gasp as well. So if you have a small telescope, do have a look at Saturn, because its rings are just one of these wow moments in astronomy. Yes, they are real, and you can see them for yourself with a small telescope.
Yeah, and it's, as you said, Steve, its apparition, as it's called, its appearance in the night sky for this season is coming to an end as the sun moves closer and closer to Saturn. So we'll only be able to see it for another month or so before it will disappear, to reappear in the morning sky then in March or April, I guess.
Yeah.
So we've got Venus low in the west, we've got Saturn fairly close to it. Then, of course, we've got Jupiter. Which is in the east or southeast at this time of the night. And then if we wait until around 8:30, low in the east, we'll see the red planet, the red planet. The red planet of Mars, which is approaching its opposition, which means it's approaching the time of the year when it's opposite the sun in the sky, and will be at its brightest that it's been for 2 years.
Mm. It's a nice one to see, but it's red, but it's not red for the same reason that Betelgeuse is red.
Go on then. So why is it red?
Well, basically iron. This is quite surprising. The ancients actually identified Mars as being the planet associated with the metal iron, and Venus was copper.
Yep.
But it's very iron-rich soils on it, and because it's essentially rust, isn't it?
It's
iron oxide. It's a rusty planet. You'd think, it looks like it's warm and hot. No, it isn't. Minus 30-ish.
Yeah.
It's pretty chilly there.
We know that Elon wants to go and visit there, don't we? It would be it's not an easy journey to get to Mars, is it? It's going to take some ingenuity to get there and back.
Well, yes. I mean, getting to the moon was difficult enough. That's a 3-day journey.
Yeah.
This, you're looking at probably somewhere around 6 to 9 months to do it successfully.
Yeah.
It's a completely different ball game. I mean, if you imagined, we scale the universe down so that the distance from the Earth to the Moon was, say, 100 centimetres, 4 inches. On that scale, the distance from Earth to Mars is going to be of the order of about 25 metres.
Yeah.
And you can't go straight either.
Nope.
Because everything's moving, so you have to take a curved orbit so that you aim for where Mars is going to be when you get there, not Mars where it is now.
But we know where it is right now because it's in the eastern sky.
Indeed.
And we'll worry about Elon getting there when it's time, but at least we will enjoy for the next few months the brilliance of Mars as it grows brighter and brighter in the sky, until in January it will be at least as bright as Jupiter. So you'll see the two planets in the sky in January. We'll talk about this more next month. But you're already seeing very, very bright Mars rising in the east. Again, you can't miss it because it's orange-yellow, orange-red, due to that rust on the surface. And again, we'll post some images of the planet as it grows in the eastern sky.
Now, all of these planets are better if you have a telescope, but you may not have a telescope. So have a look around for your local astronomy clubs, because they hold observing evenings and that during the winter months, and see if you can get along to an observing session and just use somebody else's telescope. We're all very happy to share what we can see.
Indeed. And this is the time really when we can do it best, to do what we call outlook astronomy in summer. It doesn't even get dark until 10:30. People are not really interested in going out then. But this time of the year, November, December, January, February, we can show you what's going on. So please contact us. The local astronomical societies are dying to hear from you.
There's 3 of them in the Forest FM area.
Yes.
So, well, one's just outside, but it counts as being in, I think.
They're local to us. So we are of course Forest FM. We've got the Fordingbridge Astronomers Club up in Ringwood. We meet on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. We always welcome new astronomers or people interested in astronomy generally.
We should say we're not meeting there on the 3rd Wednesday of this month because we're holding a special social evening just for members. But do look forward to coming to see us in January.
That is our standard meeting time, and we meet at the Elm Tree in Ringwood on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. Then we've got Wessex Astronomical Society. They're down in Wimborne. They meet at the Allendale on the first Tuesday of the month.
So we've just missed that one, yes.
For December, so you'll see them again in January. And finally, we've got Cranbourne Chase Astronomy Club. They meet on the 2nd Wednesday of the month at the Grosvenor Hotel in the centre of Shaftesbury. I'm not sure if they're going to be meeting this Wednesday of the month in December.
I don't know. You can always look it up on their website.
We're all 3 clubs are on the website, and we all welcome new members. You don't need any expensive kit. All you need is one human eye, and 2 is better, and a thirst for knowledge. And we're very welcoming, all of us, to new members. No need to be worried about coming to see us. So, it's only leaves for us to say Happy Christmas to you all, Merry Christmas to you all, and a Happy New Year. We will see you in 2025. We wish you clear skies, peaceful and happy times, and we look forward to seeing you next year. So it's goodbye from me, Mark Hardacre.
And from me, Steve Tonkin, and more importantly, clear skies.